I'm with SCORE, which stands for Service Corps of Retired Execs. I've been with them for 7 years since I retired from Bridgestone. And today we have the benefit of Mary Wu, who is an expert on LinkedIn and wanted to offer a number of tips for people who use LinkedIn to help make it more effective and a productive tool for them. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mary.
Hello there, I'm Mary Wu. I tell people that I'm originally from Chicago. I currently reside in Nashville and I live on Zoom, which seems to be where I do most of my learning and training. In the chat, I just put a link to a Google sheet that I created so that you can kind of go over what we're talking about here. And if you get lost, you can get back on track. And I also put a link to my LinkedIn profile. So if you want to connect with me over there, you can. Today, we're going to go over a number of things on LinkedIn. I'm going to tell you why you want to be on LinkedIn and why I might be a person who you would listen to. I'm going to give you 24-ish tips. If time permits, I'll give you an activity outline, and I love to leave people with homework. I like to give you some action steps to take so that you don't go and go, what did she say? But you actually get some things done.
One thing, let me jump in. If you have questions for any of the attendees, please put it in the chat function or the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. I'll
The chat
monitor
is
that
disabled.
and we'll take them as we come along.
The chat is disabled.
Okay.
I think, Mary, since you're the host, you would have to go to.
I thought I did that. Panelists can chat, attendees can chat with, attendees can chat with everybody. There, I just changed that. So somebody try to chat. Somebody who wasn't able to, yes. Okay.
Bingo.
So we don't see your link or anything else that you put in the chat earlier. So
put that in again, because sometimes what happens is it gets popped in, and then people who have logged in like even 30 seconds after that can't see it. So that should give you the Google Sheet, which you also should have got in an email from SCORE, and it also gives you my LinkedIn profile. So if we're good with that, and Robert stole my next line, which was you can feel free to ask questions. I see a couple of hands up. Lisa, did you have something particular right now?
No, I just was trying to get the chat enabled. So I still don't see your link in the chat though.
Does anybody else, oh, that's my bad.
It's in there, I see it.
Nope, I put it to hosts and panelists instead of everyone. That is my bad.
Okay, that's why
now
I see
everyone should be.
Okay, perfect.
I'm go from meetings to webinars sometimes, and they have different functionalities, so I get confused too. Okay, so we don't ask questions in the chat. Robert's kind of going to be monitoring that for me and let me know what comes up. So some of you, there's a lot of people that wonder why they should be on LinkedIn. They've heard various things about it. Why should they be on LinkedIn? I got about 1 billion reasons for you. Earlier this month at the New York Stock Exchange for the closing bell, LinkedIn rang the closing bell because that was when they had hit 1 billion users, which is a lot of people. Not all of those billion users are active, but many are. And one of the very cool things about that is many people are not using the posting functionalities. So if you're posting, you're giving things for people to see, and your chance of getting posts seen on LinkedIn are so much higher than they are on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, because there's less things going out and a lot of consumers. So if you're not posting there, think about it. Typically for business to business, when people are posting on LinkedIn, their brain is in a business mode. I don't know about you. If I'm on Facebook, I want to see pictures of my nieces and nephews and grandbabies and all of the things like that. And when I'm on Instagram, I want to see reels of golden retrievers. But when I'm on LinkedIn, I'm thinking about business. thinking about who I want to do business with and who I want me to do business with. Also on LinkedIn, most of the people on LinkedIn, and especially in the US, have college degrees. Most members in the US earn over 100,000. And a few years ago, there was a survey taken of what people look to before making business decisions. And 52% of buyers said that LinkedIn is the most influential channel. And I think it was 48% said after that, your website. So back a while ago, people thought of LinkedIn as a place where you posted your resume and that was it. And now it's more open to social engagement. It's more open to business. Some of the magic that I've seen happen there is two people met in a comment section. And since then, they've written 2 books together. I've seen people meet in a comment section and get podcast guest spots. And I've seen people regularly comment and then get asked to present at meetings, industry meetings. So you notice that all 3 of those I said comments. Comments are huge on LinkedIn. Very few people realize the power there. So even if you might be a little shy of getting ready to post, think about getting on there regularly and posting. Darren, it might be intimidating that most people there make 100,000 more, but that's also people that, depending on what you're in, they have money to be able to invest in different services and to purchase products that might be considered more luxury than necessity.
Okay, thank you.
While you're listening to me talk about this, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, which I put in the chat, you can scroll down and look at my recommendations from my clients. And that tells you what people that have worked with me think about me. The other thing I put, it's in the handout that you were mailed. I'm listed on a group of LinkedIn experts to follow that was created by one of the top LinkedIn experts in the UK. So I am respected by my clients, but I'm also respected by my peers, which I think says a lot about any person when you're kind of together with your peers on things. Before I even go into any tips, I'm going to give you a couple of safety factors. One of the things is to, not only on LinkedIn, anywhere they give it to you, use 2-factor authentication. It prevents you from potentially getting hacked. I know it's a pain. If you turn on 2-factor authentication, what happens is when you try to log in from a different device, that's like, is it you? We're going to send you a code. And if you think that's a pain, think about how much more of a pain it would be if somebody managed to hack your account. That's more scary. So those little bits of 30 seconds of trying to figure out where that 6-digit code is painful, but losing your account is more painful. Also, you can have your account verified now. If you're in the US, the UK, and parts of Canada, one of the great things about this is people will then know you're a human. They won't think you're a bot. The other thing is, though, that LinkedIn wants you to use your legal name. They want you to use your LinkedIn name, your real name, for verification purposes, for identity purposes, in case something happens to your account. They would not want me to use Mary Wu Trainer as my name. That's not what appears on my passport. They would want Mary Wu. They would not want Mary Wu smiley emoji, because that doesn't appear on my passport. They just want the name. So remember that when you're putting your name on LinkedIn. I know people put in emojis, things to draw attention, and it looks really cool, but it's against their terms, and you also want to play on their terms. All right, now we're going to go into the profile, and remember, the chat is open if you have questions, and I will pause for Q&A, and we will have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. But I'm going to put that I'll put that link in here again. The handout was emailed to you from SCORE. It's a Google Doc. Yeah, Sean, good point. Sean had MST. He took the MST off and then he was able to. Oh, it doesn't, try it again, save it 24 hours, Sean, or 48 hours. I had somebody who had to try 3 or 4 times after they changed their name from Sue to Susan. It gets weird. Okay, Sean, reach out to me one-on-one later. We'll talk about that. I know Sean, he's in Connect Nashville and so on. When you're setting up your profile, the first question I get is, do you need premium? And the first answer I give is, are you using all of the free resources that LinkedIn gives you to the best of your ability? Because you shouldn't pay for something if you're not already using. If you had a Ferrari in the garage, you would at least want to make sure that you're using your Honda and know how to drive that before you pop into the Ferrari. When you're
Mary,
looking at, I'm assuming some people here also have in their screen or on their phone their LinkedIn profile. You're welcome to do that. Robert?
Darren has a question about, do you see profiles with a current business name? Like if someone's a writer, can they put the LinkedIn in the name of their writing business instead of their legal name?
You put your legal name as your LinkedIn name. If you want your writing business, you could either put that in your headline, which is the thing that shows up right under your name, or create a company page for your writing business. But if you go through, and if you ever have insomnia, do this. Print out the LinkedIn user agreement and start reading it. And in there it says the name is your legal name and only your legal name. So they don't want you to put extra stuff on there.
I think that also answers Troy's question, because he wants to use LinkedIn for consulting, but not have his name because he's doing this on the side while he's got a job.
LinkedIn wants your name to be your legal name.
Yeah.
You could create an account on LinkedIn with your legal name and then create a separate account for your consulting business. Another thing you can do is you can block particular users from being able to see your LinkedIn account. So if it's only a few people in, like your boss and your boss's boss or something that you don't want to see things, you could block those 2 accounts from being able to see anything that you do. So might be a tip to get by. And I know a lot of people try to build their business when they have the day gig, they're trying to build their business on LinkedIn. It gets nuanced, but think of it as just starting and building your personal brand. And, maybe even once in a while, say nice things about your employer. That will make them feel better about you having an active LinkedIn account. And if you always have an active LinkedIn account, it won't freak out your boss if you do it 6 months before you're planning to hand in your resignation. But I didn't say that. Okay, I'm assuming a lot of you somewhere either on another screen or on your phone are kind of looking at your LinkedIn account. And the very first thing we see is the banner photo. When you figure out a way to use this, depending on what your business is, you can put a lot of things in here. Mine has my picture in it, and I need to change it because I don't need my picture 2 places. I'm going to be speaking at a major conference in a couple of months. Going to definitely make sure I get pictures of myself on stage doing that. If there's certain things that you do, you can showcase graphics in there. That would be where you would put your business name, your consulting business name. You could put that in your graphic. Doesn't necessarily need to go in your name, but the graphic is right there before anything else shows up. So it's the first thing that people will notice. The next thing is your profile photo. And this is where we often think that we want to look the best possible we can, which is fine, but you don't want to look the best possible that you did 10 years ago. I see this happen often is people either don't update their profile photo or really like that photo that they had a number of years ago. But the use of the photo is to think about, if I was going to walk into a coffee shop to meet any of you, would I recognize you from your LinkedIn photo? There was one time I had to pick up somebody at the airport, And she had earlier that morning done a video on LinkedIn. So not only did she look like her photo, she'd done a video, and I knew exactly what she was wearing because she had videoed when she left the airport in New York. So when she came out of BNA, it was like, there's that yellow dress. So those images are really important. The next thing below that is your headline. And this, you can have up to, I believe it's 220 characters. The way to think about this, though, is it's like a billboard. And if you're driving down 65 and you're driving it over the speed limit, you're not going to be able to catch all the characters. So you always think that think about it as what characters can you catch? The first 20 characters are usually what people notice the most. Those also follow you in comments. So it's great to have those be the catch. Don't lead with what you want to grab people with. Don't save the good stuff till the end. Don't hide the headline behind behind 180 some characters. Yeah, that's kind of granular because Darren, it also depends on we could mute all. Robert, do you want to mute all?
I can't do that. I think you have to. I don't
I
have
can't.
the,
Okay. Let's see.
I think it would be under the attendees. You go to those three dots in the bottom right. I believe that's where it is.
Oh, let's see. Yeah, I don't see the mute there. So please mute yourselves. Thank you. Because we can hear and I know people like to type notes. So that makes me happy that you're taking notes of what I'm saying, or maybe working on an email in the
Just mute
background.
yourself so we don't hear the keys clicking.
Thank you. Creator mode is something that LinkedIn came up with, I think it was a year or two ago. And if you activate creator mode, you then have access to doing live videos, to doing newsletters. And the other magic that gives you is if somebody goes to connect with you, they automatically become a follower. So if you get a connection request of a person that you maybe don't really want to, oh, that was echoey. There we go. Okay, maybe that you don't really want to connect with, they're still following you and seeing what content you put out. So that's kind of a brilliant thing. I love that. Today, if you ever go into LinkedIn audio rooms, it's a great way to meet people because they usually have 5 or 6 connection requests right after coming out of an audio room. You don't have to connect with everybody that tries to connect with you. Then if you scroll down a little more, you may or may not have this. You have to add it before it will show up, is a featured section. And this is a place where you can put anything. If you only have 2 things, they'll both show up really good. The first 2 things will show up on a phone. The first 3 things will show up on desktop. But this is where, if you're a speaker, you could put your speaker one sheet. You could put, if you're a real estate agent, you could put a video of the latest thing you have out. Many people use it for an introduction video. Last year, LinkedIn had the opportunity to create a 60-second video that would go with your profile photo, and then they pulled that, but you could still do a 60-second introduction video right in your featured section, and you can move that around so the thing you want most to show up will show up first. It's really prime real estate. It's kind of like going to Lower Broadway on a Saturday night. Everybody's there and everybody's seeing everything. Then if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see your about section. And it's not about you. Your about section is about what you do for other people, what you offer people, what problems you're solving. Karen, you probably don't have it set up. You have to put something in before you can see your featured section. The video could be your 30-second elevator speech, Darren. So I love that featured section. The about section where we're putting in things that are directed to our clients. Give me just 1 second. My grandbaby is awake down the hall. He's protesting hunger, and his dad and his mom and his grandpa are all there. So I don't need to worry about it, but I don't want to hear it. So in the about section, it's what you can do for others. One of the things I love to see people do here is put in their email or their phone number. Maybe don't put it in exactly. You could put in Robert Smith space and the word dot and space com, so people will know that gets to an email address without having to have things that go through and pull out information and send you spam email. But it makes it easier for people to find you. Make sure your contact information is in every place possible that LinkedIn gives you to put it, if you want people to contact you. Your contact information at the top of your box will only show up to your first connection. So, or maybe it's first and second. I'd have to double check that. Now, when you get down to your experience section, this is all the jobs you've had that you choose to put on LinkedIn. A number of years ago, there was a point where my husband, who had the day gig with insurance, was downsized, and he was working as a contractor, which didn't have insurance. So for about a year and a half, I took a job at a school lunchroom. That's not on my LinkedIn. I don't want it there. It doesn't need to be there, but it was valuable at the time for the insurance. But it doesn't showcase any of the strengths of what I'm doing now. And the people that were working there aren't necessarily going to be my clients or my contacts or my partners. Sometimes in an old job, even if it doesn't necessarily relate directly to what you're doing, is useful because those contacts from there might still be useful. And also, I've known people who have had people say, I reached out to you on LinkedIn because we both went to the same college, or because we both have something in common. I know that I do it. If I have to look at two things and determine between them and have to weigh down on a lot of things, sometimes, hey, if you love collies, your chances are much better of getting my attention than if you say, I hate dogs. It's just those little things that we tell each other about, people about ourselves. LinkedIn is that place. I know that our score people will tell us that we do business with people we know, like, and trust. And LinkedIn is the place to build the know, the like, and the trust in different areas. Also, in your experience section, this is where you can start putting down things that you've done with I increased X by Y at this company. Those numbers, those special words that people are looking for, and say, they are brilliant. Yeah, actually, it is a good one. Thinking of LinkedIn like a resume for the profile is actually kind of a good way to look at it. It's not exactly a resume, but it's really close. Please don't just use it as a resume, though, because it's so much more. In the education section, this showcases your schools, and you can put that down. Again, this might be one of those things where somebody connects with you because you went to the same school. Have you ever heard something like it's more blessed to give than receive? When we get to the recommendation section, this is a great way to think of it. I give recommendations regularly, and I receive recommendations regularly, and they may not be the same people, but there's kind of a balance in there. If you never put in things, you're never going to get things out. So is there a time, April? I'm not sure if there's a time when you should remove old recommendations. So, Robert, I'm pretty sure the next thing I talk about, if you look at the notes, that SCORE does sessions on understanding your unique value proposition.
Yes.
And understanding your client avatar. So talk to them about really having a good handle on that, because this then can be what goes in your about section. This can be formatted around to go in your headline. I can't, with 45 participants in the room, go through what all of your unique value propositions are, but I can say, find them out and use them. LinkedIn has a lot of people that look like they came out of a cookie cutter on it. And if you can go to LinkedIn and somehow manage to look unique, that will be much more, it will make you seem much more approachable.
Yep. And the workshop that does that is called the Business Model Workshop, and it focuses on the value proposition.
And then back in a long time ago, early 2010s, a lot of people were being very highly professional on LinkedIn. And that's okay, but they were never showing their personality. And then in the mid-teens, we started to get more business to business and a little more things came out. Then we got locked up in our houses for 3 years with our spouse working down the hall and our kids doing their schoolwork in the next room, and we never got out. And right then, LinkedIn had this shift where people shared a lot more information from their real life or behind the scenes. I put it that LinkedIn went from being the boardroom or the HR room to being the water cooler or the lunchroom. People would get a little more relaxed. And there are people that don't love that, but it really builds that like and trust factor. Okay, I'm going to glance and see if there's, Lisa, long story if you want to know why there's only one school. Let's see, any other, I've got to scroll back.
There's another from Rambam talking about using names, title, avatars insulting to certain religious groups.
And this is actually a good point. If you're going to choose to say certain things, you have to realize that this may rub some people the wrong way, and then you have to choose to whether or not you're going to stand your ground on that. So if you go through my whole LinkedIn profile and keep looking down and looking down, you'll see that in the past, and currently I haven't put it back in there yet, at the church that I was at when I lived up in the Chicago area, I was a volunteer with the youth. And at the church here, I'm hanging out in the nursery on Sundays, volunteering there too. So now I have not stated it widely, but it's obvious in there that I'm a Christian, and that may either make some people think she's brilliant or may offend some people, but it's like a hill I choose to stand on. And if you're going to be doing certain things, you have to understand there may be ramifications, and that's what you have to choose. Also, something interesting I heard today was that LinkedIn really doesn't like when people talk about and argue about politics. And people have been banned for that, for kind of like starting a fight. April, old recommendations, depends if they're still relevant to what you do and if they still sound good. I'm not sure if you can, I would have to test this to see if you could hide them or if you have to remove them. So it kind of depends on what the old recommendations say. I've also gone in and see people that haven't gotten a recommendation since like 2015. In that case, you keep it until you can start building up some other recommendations. Okay, any other questions right now while I'm on a pause?
No.
Okay. At least that's a one-on-one conversation. Okay. Reach out to me, have a chat with me. Long story. Longer than we've got here in the 60 minutes. Okay, so now what we want is LinkedIn action plan. I'm going to have a sip of water here before I go into this. Darren, that would be in your recommendation section. You would ask them for a recommendation, you would put that in there. If you have a 1 to 2 sentence thing and you don't have them in your recommendation, what you can do is make like a pretty photo quote on Canva and pop that in as an image. But you pop that in as an image on your featured section and then it would always be there. Or you can just put it as a post and it won't always be there. Okay. One of the things that's important is having a LinkedIn profile set up well, but it doesn't do anything for you if you're not there consistently. And if you're not there consistently and actively, I forgot about one of the warnings I wanted to give you. It is against the LinkedIn user agreement to allow somebody else to post as you on LinkedIn to access your account. This might be where a company page comes in because anybody who you put as an admin can take actions as your company page. LinkedIn doesn't want your VA or your office workers to log in as you. We assume that people like Richard Branson are probably doing this. We're not arguing that point, but they have knocked down accounts for having other people take actions as them. I've seen this mostly with people that are using especially foreign virtual assistants, where they're working with 10 different LinkedIn accounts, and LinkedIn sees this one IP address that's logging into all of these different accounts. That VA and all the people she's working for can lose their accounts. And sometimes you can get them back and sometimes you can't. So you can't allow somebody else to post as you. The thing I've seen people do is use like a Buffer or a Hootsuite or some other posting scheduler and have that put up post 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, which is acceptable according to the terms. There are certain vendors that LinkedIn allows to play on their playground. The problem is when you do that and you're not actually logging in, you're not being active. And LinkedIn wants to see people they want to build connections. So they want to see people that are being active on the platform. I've also seen people who do those buffer posts and people will comment on it. They never, ever react back to their comments. You should always be responding to your comments. If not like within the first 30 minutes, at least within 24 hours. Because you want to encourage people to comment on your posts and not make them feel like they're shouting into an echo chamber. One of the things, LinkedIn has a lot of different kinds of posts you can do. You can do live video, you can do audio room, you can do long wordy posts, you can do really short worded posts, you can do images, you can do the PDF posts that look like a slideshow. Thing is, a lot of people see different results from what they're using, and what matters is what you're doing, what your clients are seeing. So this is why it's useful to have something that will look at your numbers, and that's something creative mode gives you. If you're in creator mode, it gives you some different engagement results than having nothing. There's also ways to use like, let's see. There's pro versions of, I think, like Hootsuite and Buffer have some engagement things in there. Authored Up get some engagement things in there. And there was another one I was thinking of, but it gave out of my mind because Shield Analytics has another way to do things in there. So there are ways to either free or paid get to measure your results to see what works best for you. And then the thing that people don't really seem to understand is how valuable the comments are. Going in and commenting on other people's posts, responding if somebody responds to your comments, and you don't necessarily have to comment on the post. You could comment on a comment of the post. There's a lot of connections that can happen in the comment section And according to LinkedIn, you can't always come up with this. According to LinkedIn, comments are 10 or more words that show that you've read the information. It doesn't like engagement pods where people are just going in and saying, yes, I've seen this, yay you, or I agree. They don't like those 2-word comments, especially if all of them are the same. LinkedIn says that they do not allow engagement pods, and they could, if they figure out that you're in one, decide that you no longer have an account and you may or may not be able to get it back. And like I said earlier, sometimes it's a few strikes and you're out, and they surprise you by not letting you know exactly what those strikes are. You don't need the biggest network. Actually, the importance is that the people that are in your network are looking at your content. I've seen people where they will, back in the 20 teens, I think it was, there were lines on LinkedIn Open Networking. They would connect with everybody that would connect with them. I personally, and a lot of other LinkedIn trainers agree with me, it needs to be the right for you network. You need to be connecting with the people that you can partner with, people that you can add value to, people that can add value to you. And last December, I think it was, back in the day, if you went to connect with somebody on LinkedIn, you can send a personalized invite. And I think it was in December that LinkedIn limited those, if you have a free account, to only being able to send a certain amount per month. I think some people were seeing 10 and some people were seeing 20. So I used to always, Robert.
Oh, sorry, Mary, there's a question from an anonymous attendee. They Googled their business site, admitted to allowing anyone to change our site without our permission. Does LinkedIn allow this as well?
No, LinkedIn, I love this. So when you get a recommendation on LinkedIn, there's 3 options. You can ignore it, you can add it, or you can look at it and ask somebody to edit it. It can't let you, it won't just put it up there. LinkedIn won't put something on your profile without your permission. Now, you could get comments that are negative, so that's another reason why you should regularly check and see what the comments are. Okay, so I was saying LinkedIn had removed the number of, they used to let you do personalized invites to anybody. Now they've lowered that. So one of the things that a lot of LinkedIn trainers are thinking is, you got to be a little bit more creative now. Engage with somebody that you might really want to connect with, especially if this is somebody that is in the field that you're in, might be an influencer. Engage on their posts and get kind of seen by them before you reach out with a blind connection request. And another thing is, if there's somebody you really want to connect with, but you don't want to, but you maybe used up all of your personalized invitations, if you know somebody that's connected to that person, ask them for an introduction. A lot of times, if you have somebody that person knows stand up for you, it ups that know, like, and trust again. If Robert knows April, then I like Robert. Robert likes April. I might like April. Let's find out. So the connections of your connections is incredibly valuable on LinkedIn. And we don't often see that. I might post something and Sean might pass it along. And now all of a sudden, it's not only being seen by my people, it's being seen by Sean's people because he commented on it. And when it comes to direct messages, again, you can't have somebody log in as you and send your direct messages, but you should also be strategic and logical and not just spam. I have accepted connection requests from people, and they've immediately sent hey, I've got this, well, blah, 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 and it's only cost blah, 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 and you should do this. And I immediately unconnect from them because I want relationships, not spam. Okay, one of the things, and this works really well, I have done trainings for specific groups. I did a training for graphic designers that work with websites. And one of the things I love to do is dig around, but this can't be done in a large group, and help you figure out who you should be following, kind of poke around, and who are the leaders in your industry. Sometimes you can get really great ideas from them. Sometimes you can emulate them. You can never, ever, ever copy anybody. Something that's really interesting about LinkedIn is it's a very self-policing platform. I was just talking about this with a client today. A lot of times people will send spam, which we don't like. And on LinkedIn, we tend to report those more often and block those more often. And LinkedIn pays attention to those blocks and those complaints, and then they remove the people from the platform. So there's a lot less noise on the platform because the people on the platform are in that business mindset, and we don't want spam and we don't want to be hassled. So we're just like, get rid of these people. LinkedIn, the other really kind of bad news about it, well, not bad news, but it's a long game. If you're getting active on LinkedIn now, it might be 6 months to a year before you start seeing real results. But if you don't start until 6 months from now, then that adds more on how long it will take. So being active builds momentum, but you've got to keep the building process going. Anybody else have any current questions now before I dive into the next section? And while I have a sip of water.
The same anonymous person didn't feel like the question was answered. The question was a little bit vague to me. It was about, let me repeat it. Google My Business Site admitted to allowing anyone to change our site without our permission. I don't know why anyone would allow that. And then the question was, does LinkedIn allow this as well? I suppose that means, can someone come in and change your LinkedIn profile without your permission? Which I'm sure the answer is no.
Answer is no. LinkedIn does not allow you to let somebody else log in as you. They're not going to allow somebody else to log in as you. The only
or to look at your profile and change it.
They can't change
I think
it.
that's what they're trying to ask.
They can't. Unless they can log in as you, they can't change anything.
Yeah.
So if you don't have two-factor authentication on, they might be able to log in as you and change something. If somewhere along the way you've given your login information to somebody else, a family member or virtual assistant, they can maybe log in and change things, but there should not be any way. And if you ever see it, report it right away. Run it up the chain and say, this happened and it's wrong, and stop it. It doesn't get allowed. Does that help? And for some odd reason, I'm not seeing that anonymous question. So sorry.
If you click on the answered, that's where it shows up. Because I clicked that it was answered, but
okay, there we go. Got it. Okay. You don't need a cell phone for two-factor authentication if you can tell them to pop it into your email. So sometimes it'll come up and say, where do we send the code? And then you can direct it to your email. Honestly, I don't remember the last time they asked me for the code, where it went to, because I've got my phone in one hand and my desktop in front of me most of my life. Okay, let's see. Did you know? And this is something I've started leading with in my classes and when I'm working with somebody one-on-one. Did you know that you can download your LinkedIn connections and activities and save it in a CSV file? So if something happens and somehow or another you lose your LinkedIn account, you still have access to the information that you had. You have to do various and sundry clicking around in places, and it also might take about 24 hours, but you have available all of that information. I got a call from somebody last month that had lost access to their account, and I'm like, did you save it? And they're, no. I'm like, ouch. So go do that. If I haven't posted it yet, I have a YouTube channel where I answer really short things do some really short videos on how to do stuff on LinkedIn. And I think I'm going to be posting that later this week. It is such a valuable thing to do. So you want to make sure that you do that. Next Tuesday morning at 6:30 Nashville time, I have to be awake and presentable, camera ready. I'm doing a video with a guy in the UK, and he's known as the 15-minute guy for LinkedIn. His theory is that you can do everything you need to do on LinkedIn in 15 minutes, because a lot of people complain about the amount of time it takes to be on social media. And I will not argue with him about the 15-minute thing. It is, if you know what you're doing and you're walking in with a good plan, you should be able to. I personally would be like 15 minutes morning, 15 minutes evening, but you kind of check your feed, check your inbox, check your notifications, make some comments, and check your connection requests. That's what you should do every day. LinkedIn's, if you are posting, I like people to post 2 to 3 times a week. But if you're posting once a week, you are posting more than I think 95% of LinkedIn members. So posting a few times a week is fine. You can post about specials or events you have coming up. If you've got trainings, you can post about that. Every now and then, if you regularly post, show a little bit of what I call behind the curtain stuff that kind of happens in your business, but that you don't normally talk about. Or you can even show things from your personal life. My grandson, who was crying down the hall a little while ago, he was born in December of 2022. And shortly after we brought him home, I put up a picture of him on LinkedIn and told people I'd just gotten a promotion from mom to grandma. That was my best performing post of the year. I don't always do that. And if I did always do that, I am sure I would tick off a lot of people. But doing it once in a while really builds that know factor, that you're a real person. There are on LinkedIn groups that you can join. Recently they started flagging groups when you go to visit them, that whether or not it's an active group. So that's a beautiful thing to do, is to get into groups, especially groups that are in your industry, groups that might be your clients. Sometimes there's local networking groups. There is also a lot of dead wood in LinkedIn groups. So if you go into groups and there's been nothing posted for 6 months, you can leave right away. And there's also a lot of spam in LinkedIn groups.
Yeah.
When I was in
Sorry, Sean just put in the chat, he took a picture with his new book and wrote it, and people loved it. And he commented he feels like that people do want to see personal success and see the personal side of you.
They want to see the personal side of you. And Sean, also make sure you put that book in the publication section on LinkedIn. Okay, so I'm back to groups for just a second, and then we can take other questions if we want. When I was in the Chicago metro area, there was a LinkedIn local group, and that was a great group. And then all of a sudden, the group just got taken over by spammers. 5 messages a day, and it was all somebody talking about how we could, it might have had something to do with the warranty on my car, or how we can make 100K in 2 months. And so I left that group. So if you go into a group and see a lot of spam, you are welcome to leave it. If you have a premium profile, you can see kind of most of the people who have viewed you. If you have a free version, you can see some of the people who viewed you, check who's viewed your profile, and you can reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed you viewed my profile. Did you have any questions? Darren, there's no takeover on LinkedIn. There is on Facebook, but I don't think there is anymore. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens on Facebook. Yeah, why take the chance and create an account? Come over and play on LinkedIn, where they don't do that for the most part.
Ramban had a question about, do you know anything about Facebook allowing unknown persons to alter our site?
This is an hour meeting about LinkedIn, so
Yeah.
getting into Facebook would be like kind of
It's a distraction right now.
right. If I can stay in the room for a while after the hour is up, but I still will not be able to answer Facebook questions. One of the things I love people to do monthly, and I have a private group of people that work with me, and we do this every month, is we sit down and say, what worked last month? What have you got coming up next month? And what do you want to do? Because, like I said, Ashley is the 15-minute a day guy. LinkedIn isn't going to work in 15 minutes a day unless you know exactly what you're going to do every single time you go on. So having a day where you're planning new content and figuring out what to head to is a great idea. And one of the things that I have discovered is I can say, and I can train, and I can tell people all day long, this is a brilliant idea. It does not work for me unless I actually write it down in my calendar. So Friday morning, I have a date to do that with the people in my group, and then it will get done. It's not on the calendar. I don't know about any of y'all, but for me, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen. And I was looking at my new connection requests today. That's something you should do on a regular basis. Some of them you may want to connect to, some of them you won't. But if you've got creator mode sent, then once they've sent it to you, they're following you. I also like people at least annually to change your photo, change your banner. LinkedIn likes to see you doing these things. Review your connections. There might be people that you don't want to longer be connected with for whatever reason. Also update your featured section and review your groups. You might find out that you're in 5 or 10 groups that aren't worth your time anymore, and it's okay to get rid of things. So I'm going to give you some homework. I want everybody to go off and review your profile. And if you want to, you can message me if you found something cool to change just from this session. Find something to put in the featured section and figure out what your schedule is going to be for next month. What do you want to post about? And can you pick 3 days of the week, like maybe Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10, and post on those days and just see how it goes if you're consistent for a while? According to the experts, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays are supposedly the best days to post, but it all comes down to when your people are there and what they're doing. In that handout, I've got ways to find me, my mailing list, my LinkedIn, and I absolutely love to do presentations like this for chamber groups, for networking groups, for SCORE groups. And then the other thing I kind of like to do on the side is help nonprofits understand how they can really be making use of LinkedIn. Because as I mentioned earlier, most of the people there are earning over 100,000 or more, and that might be where their board members are and where their donors are. So it's kind of a cool place to hang out.
Yeah. Barry, there's a question. Yesterday was my first time posting an article on LinkedIn, but I couldn't decide if I should post it as an article or a newsletter. Can you
Anonymous
explain
tip, creator mode.
Let me finish. Can you explain the difference between the two? Because LinkedIn gives you both options to post as an article or a newsletter.
And it's kind of one of those weird things. I like the way newsletters end up looking when they're done. But they're sort of both sides of the same coin. So if you go into an article to write an article, it will actually put you into where your newsletter is. It's really sort of weird. If you want to reach out to me privately, we can dig into that a little bit further. And one of the odd things is that I have this thing called Authored Up, so I don't always easily able to get into the way the free version works on everything. Okay, let's see. Any other questions posting around either in the Q&A?
Not right now.
Oh yeah, it's being recorded, Melinda. So if you go through the recording, if anybody who just came in late, or if anybody who's seeing this later is on the recording, I am on LinkedIn and you can send me a direct message there and I can answer questions. Kathy, I loved seeing surveys on LinkedIn. It is a great way to get information. It's a great way to do client research. You think you're doing a survey, but hey, it's also client research. And Karen, you have to talk to Robert about how to get the recording.
I'll have to dig it up and I can send you an answer to that, Karen. I believe it's on the Nashville Score website.
And is it going out to all the attendees or all the people that registered, or do you know?
I don't think the recording is. I think any slide deck that was it was supposed to be mailed out in advance. If it's not in advance, it'll be mailed out after the session's over.
Okay, I know Score Fox Valley sends out the recordings because all Score chapters are different.
They are.
Like, what are you doing? I don't know. Okay. Any other questions that have to do with LinkedIn before? Because we said that the website said this was going to be an hour.
It is an hour. That was my
That's
error.
okay. But I'm not good. Yeah, we want to get all the LinkedIn questions answered within the next 2.5 minutes. And I hope people learn something and reach out to me on LinkedIn. And if you do, send a note. Hey, Mary, I was in your event. Oh, Ramban, do you have a question? Your hand is raised.
His was about that
Oh, okay, it's down now.
avatars and names was offensive to certain religious groups.
The best, I think LinkedIn pretty much defaults it to a week, and that seems to work fairly well unless you have a reason you need the information quicker than that. The other thing I really like to see people do when they do surveys is encourage conversation in the comments. Because LinkedIn loves when conversation is in the comments. So, the more you can get stuff going on there, the better it is. So kind of try to, hey, what else would you add? What do you think? Okay, if everybody's done with LinkedIn questions, we've got some questions for Robert about something that happened. Kenny.
Kenny's just had a posted one. Most of my business relationships know me as Kenny, but my legal name is Kenneth. What would you suggest I do?
Verify under your legal name, and then you should be able to go in and change your name after that, once you get it verified, and you'll keep the verification. But like change it from Kenneth to Kenny, and not from Kenneth to Ken the greatest person of all time, because if they find that out, they might be upset because they think that Bill Gates is the greatest person of all time because he owns Microsoft and Microsoft owns LinkedIn. And sometimes you have to change it and let it sit for a couple of days and then verify and then change it back. I wish that process was smoother, but it's not.
Mhm.
Oh, and Darren, Robert had a question about the marketing presentation on Saturday.
I'm sorry. Who had a question about
No,
it?
Darren had a question to Robert. To
Oh,
you about the marketing presentation on Saturday. It's in the chat. Bye, Sean. Oh, Sean already left.
For this past Saturday. Yeah, I'll find out about that and see if I can get them to you. Can you send me your email address, Darren?
You're welcome, Karen, if you're still here. Anyone want me to sing a song?
Uh-huh.
That'll get rid of them. No, I don't mean that.
So Gloria's said she's returning into LinkedIn after not being active for years. She now has her own consulting business. How do I highlight my new business and services offered?
Okay, Gloria, there's a way when you're editing your profile to add a services page, which is a great way to do that. Oh, did that answer that since it closed?
Oh, sorry, I
And
just
sort of have a you can do one of those videos I was talking about, introduction video. You can do a reintroduction video. Hi, I'm Gloria, and you may have remembered that I used to blah, 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 but now I blah, 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 because this is awesome. You have to fill in the blah, blah, blahs yourself, because, or you can start it with whatever problem you solve. Do you need more information about your car's extended warranty? Then Gloria, and I help people with blah, blah, blah. You may know me from when I used to be a lunch lady at the junior high, but now this is what I'm doing and I love it. And when you're doing videos, I think LinkedIn likes them to be about a minute and a half. Don't ask me why. The next week, the analytics report comes out, and then I'll be curled up in a corner reading it for a couple of days and kind of assessing all the information.
I know quite a few people have dropped out. I don't see anything in the Q&A or the chat.
So I know sometimes for webinars, people sort of listen to it in the background while they're
Oh.
off washing dishes or something. So a lot of these people could be like halfway here, but nowhere near their monitor. And that's okay. Hopefully they got some great information. And then what I want to do, well, I'm still semi-logged in, and oh, more questions. You're welcome, Cheryl. I'm keep an eye on you. Gloria, I don't think LinkedIn Online will talk to each other much, so putting the same information is fine. I often will try to stagger information. So if I'm putting something on my Facebook business page, well, things usually go on LinkedIn first, and then they move over to my Facebook business page. Often the only time I will do things multiple times the same day would be like, I'm having a webinar tomorrow, come to it. Although I should be putting that out earlier. But we all know that there are times when we wait until the last minute. And Robert, later on, I want to log in and pull down the attendance from the Zoom thing so that, how do I put this? So that when these people reach out to me on LinkedIn and I see the names, I'm not thinking they're spammers. I'm thinking, oh,
Sure, absolutely.
because they're everywhere. There's a lot of spam. You just have to learn how to live with it.
Amen.
Yeah, Darren, everybody does that. Everybody checks it and doesn't read it. And here's the other thing. Sometimes you might have looked at it the first time you signed up for it back in 2012 or whatever. And then they change it, and then you're in the middle of doing something, and it's like, we change the terms and conditions, and you're like, yes, 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 yes. So you can get to what you're doing, and you don't know what the changes are. Robert, when will the recording be available? Gloria, I don't know when the recording will be available. Oh, Robert, did you answer that? Gloria asked when the recording would be available, and you're currently on mute.
And that's because I was typing a message into SCORE about it.
Ah, okay.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm finding out. I won't be able to get an answer before this is over, though.
Darren, I'm not 100% sure if LinkedIn sends emails when they update the terms, because I don't read all of my email from LinkedIn because there's so freaking much of it. So many emails. But also, Darren, one of my secrets is I'm hooked up with a lot of other LinkedIn trainers. So if something majorly changes, we all share about it. It's a very tight-knit community that's very willing to share information among each other. So it's like, hey, this went down this week. Oh, pass the word. It's kind of like a great big game of telephone.
Mm. I'll try to see if an email can go out to this group as to where and how to access the recording.
I know sometimes when I listen to a recording after something like this, it's like, oh, I missed that the first time around.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're taking notes quickly and like, oh, I missed that. Okay.
Mhm.
And sometimes just a few days later, your mind is in a different spot. You may have had a little extra coffee and then all of a sudden be like, oh, cool.
Mhm.
So Robert, how long have you been with SCORE?
7 years. Yeah. I retired in 2016 and basically had to recreate a new normal of what do you do when you've been working for 39 years and all of a sudden you're not. And about a month later, someone who was in SCORE, who I knew, was having coffee with and told me about it, and I kind of hooked up with it and, I've enjoyed it ever since. I'm particularly interested when I mentor clients. I've had everything from a lady with a herd of goats who wanted to assess a business to clear fields of weeds by putting her goats into fields. And she wanted to monetize the business for, how do I stand up a business and I make money off of renting my herd of goats to clear weeds out of a field, to normal stuff like opening a coffee shop.
So did she get the goat business going?
Not to my knowledge, because one of the things that's to me, at least a sad reality, at least is how I interact with clients, is I almost always want an initial call with the client to talk over and get more context around their quest. And what I talk about, say, take the goat herding example, is what sort of income are you looking for? Look at your trading area. How many people do you think have fields that need to be cleared? And how many of them do you think will pay to have it cleared? Or do you have competitors? And then try to, work a straw man model of what revenue that looks like. And then look at that against your expenses. And does that work or not work? And typically after a discussion like that, a lot of them don't come back, which, I find a little frustrating, but to me, it suggests they simply don't have the drive to want to push it another step.
It is a lot of pushing. So one person I know used to do, she would work with franchises and matching customers to franchises. And I was not interested in that at that time, because at one point in time, my husband and I had a tax franchise and it was not a good fit for us, which is fine. Probably should have talked to SCORE first and we would have moved forward. Damn it. But, and one of the things that I saw that I wouldn't do because I know I don't have the energy for it, but is fascinating. I don't know about Nashville, but in the Chicago area, there's a lot of prairie, there's a lot of water, there's a lot of parks that have geese problems.
Oh.
And there's a franchise that has border collies that will get rid of the geese.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a brilliant plan, because the border collies come into whatever this place is and they get rid of the geese and they send them over to the next place. And then they go over to the next place and then the geese go somewhere else and then the geese go somewhere else and then they're back at the beginning again.
That's a recurring revenue model right
It's
there.
beautiful. But then there's having to have dogs, having to take care of the dogs, having to train the dogs to work, having to be outdoors with the dogs to get rid of the geese in any weather, which the Chicago metro area has different weather than Nashville, which is why I'm here.
Sure. So another thing that I talk to a lot of clients about, let's say someone wants to open a coffee shop, and let's say they were working at, I don't know, Nissan, and they want to quit Nissan and open a coffee shop. And I'll ask them, would you mind sharing what's your salary? And then ask, if they give me their salary, then you have 401k, do you have a bonus plan? What's your benefit package? What's your total comp? And let's say their total comp's 95,000. Then I'm gonna ask them, do you think your coffee shop will clear enough revenue to match what you're making now? And a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them haven't thought about that. Because it's like, I want to get out of this rat race. I want to be my own person. And I said, well, is this gonna float you economically? Where do you need to be? And a lot of them haven't thought through that. So I try to get that out up front so they can think through that, to see if their idea is one that will satisfy their monetary needs.
I was just talking to somebody last week who had a client who had been a mechanical engineer at Nissan and then left that to start a lawn care business.
Wow.
And we said, I'm done with this. Seems like a lot of people want to do something else when they leave Nissan.
Well, I just picked that as an example, but you know, lawn care business is seasonal. And so they're replacing a recurring 12-month salary with something that, you know, runs in this area 6-7 months. And a lot of them try to fill it in with, well, I'll do snow blowing in the winter. Well, we don't have that much
You
snow.
don't have that option. I don't know why you get that option. It's like
Or
lawn
a lot
care.
of them do pressure washing. You know, they want to fill it in with pressure washing. But you know, that's a shocking shift of vocations. So or just down to 6 folks who are still on the line.
And
So
they're not saying anything, so I can be done.
yep, I'm done as well. I think it's a good time to wrap it up here. And
Okay,
I'll
it's
get a
time to
note.
wrap it up. Message if you need anything right now. Otherwise, we're going to be out of here.
Yep, cool. We'll see you guys.
Oh,
Take
hold
care.
on, there's a few questions that haven't been cleared. Contact same information. Okay, we've already answered these.
Yep.
I'm marking them all as answered. Done, 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 done. Okay, we should be good. I
Cool.
will talk to you again some other time, Robert. It was great to meet you here.
You bet. Good to meet you too, Mary. Take care now.
Bye-bye.